It's episode 100. And in today's episode, we thought it would be fun to mark this momentous occasion by revisiting a few of your favorite guests and ours too. But first, I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And this is True Tales from Old Houses, episode 100.
100. It's 100. Stacy, it's 100. Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Are you so excited?
I am so excited. It's funny because we've been leading up to this for a very long time. And then suddenly it's here. And also because we did, episode 99, and then we did a mini-sode, and then we did a bonus, and then we did a mini-sode.
Right. We really dragged this out. We really milked it for all it was worth.
We really did. Part of that was just to get me through my surgery time, and part of it was the way the schedule worked out with the 4th of July. But before we do launch into today's episode, I want to say thank you to our Season 9 sponsors. And they are the Craftsman Store, Sutherland Wells, Preservan, and Abitron. We could not do this show without their financial support.
And emotional support. Yes, thank you to our sponsors, and thank you, Stacy, for coordinating all of it and making this show happen week after week.
Oh gosh, it's my pleasure. Our sponsors, of course, they have coupon codes. The Abitron coupon code has expired repeatedly throughout the season, but we're going to have a summer coupon code available for True Tales from Old Houses listeners. Our landing page for Preservan should still be active. Please click on that if you want to know about the franchise opportunity. I just discovered today that you have to put the www.preservanfranchise.com/TrueTales. I thought you could put it in without it, but it always goes to a blank page. So if you have tried over the season to access that Preservan franchise page, you didn't get anything, put a www. In front of the whole address and you'll be right in, no problem.
Good to know.
Yeah. I also really want to thank our listeners. I was writing what I was, kind of a general outline of what I wanted to say today. And I found myself getting really sort of verklempt, I guess that's the word, about it. It feels so good to have this core group of listeners out there. And we truly are a niche of a niche. We are in the home and garden podcast category, but honestly, most of the podcasts in that category are garden or decorating or something like that. And we are that little tiny niche of a niche. And I'm so grateful for the listeners who support us and have been leaving really kind reviews lately. So thank you so much to all of you who listen week to week and offer great feedback and share the show.
Absolutely. And thank you to the listeners for welcoming me on this season. It's been touching and really fun for me, so I appreciate the warm reception.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. You really brought a fresh new energy into the podcast this year, and I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am to you for putting up with me and for your willingness to work together. You're great at off-the-cuff stuff. Everything I throw at you, you just take it with a smile, and I thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The show has benefited from having you here.
Thank you. No, you have made this extremely easy and extremely fun. And I think I said it on episode 90. I'm just happy to be here, and I'm still just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I remember talking to Andy about it, and I said, I talked to Daniel today and asked him if he would be interested in being the co-host for True Tales from Old Houses. And he said, did you tell him that you're a nightmare to work with?
I'm going to have a word with Andy because I'm not sure what he's talking about. But if he has some hot gossip, I'd love to know.
Well, he sure likes to give me a hard time.
No, you're a breeze.
All right, we do have some announcements today. Do you want to do the first one?
Oh, sure. So today's episode is a little longer than normal. We're not going to do a Q&A, but you can continue to ask questions at any time through our contact form, and we will answer them on an upcoming episode on season 10.
Oh, and I forgot to say that season 10 actually starts Monday, September 11th. We'll say that date a couple more times before this episode is over, but we're on a break after today's episode until Monday, September 11th. But maybe we'll throw in a couple of mini-sodes here and there over the summer.
Cool. Yeah. Mark your calendars, September 11th, 2023.
And if you want to submit questions, you can do that. The contact form is right on the True Tales from Old Houses website. Now, the next thing that we want to tell you is that we will be announcing the winners of the 100th episode giveaways. Those were active until July 7th. The winners have been chosen. And since we have 4 updates for you and we have 4 giveaways, we're going to announce a giveaway winner right before each update, just to keep it fun. Why not?
Why not?
The other thing I want to tell you is that we have had a ton of feedback about Lustron Homes, and it has been so fun.
This is going to be the Lustron Homes podcast. Did I tell you about the recent one?
Go for it.
Okay. At My Mill House on Instagram told me that there is actually a website called lustronlocator.com, and it is a map of the entire country and shows the location of all of the, I guess, known Lustron homes. So, Stacy, there's actually several in the Buffalo, Niagara region.
That's so cool. I am going on a road trip for sure.
Yes.
Well, I'm wondering actually if that same person contacted me. But anyway, to keep it brief, please continue that feedback because I'm going to move it to the newsletter. Since we'll be on break, the newsletter's been, I'll be honest, it's been dead this season. It was more important to get the show to you, start the mini-sodes and all that. But I'm going to move all this Lustron home talk and all the other updates that happen over the summer while we're on break to the newsletter. So if anybody would like to subscribe to that, you can go to truetalesfromoldhouses.com/newsletter. And if you are already subscribed, then expect to hear from me a few times this summer. Gosh, I'm doing all the talking today, but then also I have all the updates. So let me keep going about the merch.
Do it.
Those of you who submitted merch pre-orders, that should be in early next week. And then I will start sending invoices, start shipping. I know I didn't do a lot of updates on that. I was under the effects of anesthesia, but here I am.
And when you get your merch, we would love to see you rock your True Tales merch. So take a selfie, send us a picture, tag us. We'd love to see it.
Absolutely. You can also tag at True Tales from Old Houses on Instagram if you like, and then we'll shoot that right to the stories in our Instagram. But definitely tag us personally. That's wonderful.
And finally, we invite you to join my mother and many other people over in the ratings and reviews section of your favorite podcasting app of choice. Ratings and reviews are a great way to boost us in the rankings, let people know that this show is worth a listen. And Stacy and I really enjoy reading them and getting them. It makes us feel super special.
It sure does. All right, Daniel, I keep talking about our break, so I would like to know very quickly, what are you going to be doing on your summer vacation?
Working. A lot of renovation. I've said it before, but I will boldly say it again. This is the time I am finishing my cottage down the street, getting it on the market, getting it sold, getting some money.
Oh, money, that thing, yeah.
Yeah. It would sure be nice to see some of that again. You know, they have a way, those houses, just holding it hostage. So that's going to be, I think, the lion's share of my summer is that. Brad actually just left about half an hour ago to go home. I don't know why he feels like he has to do that, but we spent the past week or so working on the house. We actually got a lot done. It's all kind of little stuff at this moment, but I think I'm right about ready to get some primer on the walls, and that'll feel huge. Paint always feels like such a big deal. So that's pretty much what's going on. How about you?
Well, my summer will be a little slower than normal because I'm still recovering, but I'm happy to announce that 2 weeks post-op, finally, I don't feel as if I am a popcorn kernel that's going to explode every time I sneeze. So that is progress.
I love that visual, little Stacy.
Turning into popcorn. Yes, that is pretty much how it felt.
But we're on the road.
On the road to recovery, yes.
This is very good.
Even today is a turning point. I think it's the 100th episode excitement. But I will be still teaching the window workshop at Silver Lake this summer. That's the 28th of July. Also have that long trip to Canada with some of our friends here of the podcast. And then I have a ton of website updates to do. This season, you joined the show, but there's really no evidence of that on our website. I sincerely apologize to you, Daniel.
How dare you? I didn't notice it.
Okay, good. But the plan is, of course, to update the website and get it a little bit more user-friendly and all of that stuff. And maybe we'll work on some artsy stuff behind the scenes, you and I.
Fun, fun, fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, we need to take a break. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, wonderful. Well, after this break, we'll be back because we are just getting started with episode 100. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by The Craftsman Store, another excellent resource from Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog. The Craftsman Store is your go-to place for old house tools and supplies.
Our buddy Scott has taken the hassle out of tracking down all of the specialized old house supplies we need and put them all in one place for us. It's a cozy little online hardware store full of books, tools, and replacement parts.
Fun fact, Scott has supported True Tales from Old Houses every single season since we started taking sponsorships. So thank you, Scott. But I also wanted to say that I do buy window restoration supplies from the Craftsman Store, including some diamond glazing points, whiting, that kind of thing, because some of those items are really hard to find. Scott's business, it is top-notch. The customer service is an actual human, and I find that his store ships very, very quickly.
From window restoration to plaster repair, they have everything you need to do the job like a pro. So check it out today at thecraftsmanstore.com and save 10% on your orders if you use the code TRUETALES.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Preservan, a unique preservation franchise opportunity developed by longtime window restoration pro Ty McBride. The mission of Preservan is to save the future by preserving the past.
All right, one more time, Stacy. What exactly is Preservan?
I'm going to bring it home, Daniel. Preservan is a preservation franchise for wood rot repair in buildings old or new. Ty started Preservan in Oklahoma, and now you can open a Preservan franchise anywhere in the country. As a franchise owner, the team at Preservan will train and equip you with the tools you need to perform sustainable wood rot repairs and build your own team of epoxy techs.
As a Preservan franchise owner, you will receive the playbook for a proven preservation business, exclusive access to Everresin epoxy products, business software, and all the marketing, advertising, training, and technical support that you need. The Preservan family is focused on creating work-life balance while serving your neighbors and community in a recession-proof industry. Those are values that Ty holds dear, and he wants you to be able to work your own hours and spend the rest of your time in ways that are meaningful to you.
To learn more about becoming part of the Preservan family and their mission, go to www, that part's important, .preservan, Preservan, preservanfranchise.com/truetales. We are back.
It's so good to be back on episode 100. I feel like I have to keep saying it. It's so exciting.
Are you ready, Daniel, to announce the first winner of the 100th episode giveaway?
I get to do it? Okay.
Of course. Go for it.
All right. For the free enrollment in the window course, which was generously provided by Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, the winner is Lisa Van Dyke.
Lisa Van Dyke.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, we will email you, Lisa, to get your details. There's a big chance that this will go to spam, so I'll try to contact you in several different ways. But if you are listening to this episode, then feel free to contact me through my email or through the contact form on True Tales from Old Houses, and we will make sure you get your prize.
Congratulations, Lisa. Good luck with your windows.
Now it's time for the first update, and it comes from John Rogers. Now, John's a longtime friend of mine. We first worked together during episode 55, and he did Q&A with me several times. So we have a lot of history, the two of us. Now, I did this interview solo. Daniel, you were not with me because I was at the Missouri Preservation Conference, and I always try to do interviews in person if I have the chance.
I was actually in your suitcase the whole time, but...
Well, it's funny that you were in my suitcase because you must have been there instead of my mic cords, which I actually forgot. I took my handheld recorder and I took my mics, but there's this quality about this interview that sounds like we are sitting at the bottom of a well. And I do apologize for that. We did our best given the circumstances. John recently saved an old building from demolition in St. Joseph, Missouri, and that's what we took a few minutes to catch up about. So I hope everyone enjoys this update. I'm sitting here with John Rogers. So we've been at the Missouri Preservation Conference for the last 3 days. John, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, good to see you again. I had asked Instagram if they had any suggestions for people they wanted us to circle back around to for our 100th episode, which is this episode. And we had several requests from people who wanted to hear about your new building. So before we get to that, let me just say that John's been on the show a few times for Q&A segments. And then I actually came to St. Joe in 2020, I believe.
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, as of a couple of days ago, I think.
That's right. Gosh, a lot's happened in 2 years, huh?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your new building in St. Joe? Just give us a little history on why you wanted that building and how you actually eventually ended up with the set of keys.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy story. The building is best known as the Penn Street Square, just outside of downtown St. Joseph, Missouri. It was built in 1898 as the R.T. McDonald clothing factory and warehouse. They built men's work clothes. In 1898, they remained in business until the 20s, and it became another factory for clothing. And then its longest tenant was an antique house, Antiques and Auctions. It was that from the 1930s up until about 2006, and then it sat vacant. So vacant for 20-something years, and obviously signs of neglect, and it's got its issues, but it came up. I drive by it every day on my way to my current shop and just fell in love with it. It's a literal square block size building surrounded by windows. It's right across the street from an incredible museum in town, the Patey House, as well as the Jesse James House, which was his final home where he met his end, is across the street. And the current owner wanted to demolish it. It was an architectural salvage company. They purchased the building strictly to bring it down and sell it off piece by piece. It kind of became a year and a half, almost 2 year long fight between the city and the owner and the preservation community. And they finally got approval to do it, to bring the building down. And at that point, it became one of Missouri's most endangered properties. Every year, Missouri Preservation, which is a board that I serve on, has their top 9 most endangered properties in the state, just as a way of promoting it and hopefully coming up with a way to save the properties. So it was listed in 2022, I believe. And at that point, I had been talking with the owner, trying to come up with the game plan that maybe I could take ownership and do something with it, kind of behind the scenes, working through normal channels to try and arrange funding and everything. And then there was a change in circumstance on his end. And essentially I got the call saying we had 7 days to come up with the money or the building would have to start being taken down.
So 7 days. So what did you have initially? Did you think you had a year? Is that right?
Yeah, initially we never really talked about a timeline. There was just consistent work moving forward, and it's a massive building. It has its issues that need to be addressed. So normal funding, not that it wasn't accessible, it was a lot more difficult in order to do, and it's a lot more difficult also to jump through all of the hoops that's necessary when you're a one-man shop running a multi-man shop operation, essentially, between travel and work. So last ditch effort, I threw out a GoFundMe request, I guess, or fundraiser, trying to at least come up with some of the money to show that maybe it was possible. And it really took off. It didn't come up with the entire amount, but we have another window restoration company that kind of stepped forward. And we had been talking several window people in the past about how difficult it is for us to explain what we do to normal funding channels, normal bankers. It's not a normal career that people hear about window restoration as a viable source of income. So we had been talking about almost trying to set up kind of a revolving fund where we could self-finance ourselves as we're trying to move into larger shops and as we get into permanent shops and larger buildings, it helps everybody because we can all take on larger projects. We can teach more people. It helps everybody. And everything just kind of fell together all at once. The 7 days passed. The building was still standing. He saw that there was movement. He was kind of interested in seeing how it played out. So he allowed a little bit more time. And then literally in 6 days, the price was dropped substantially because the owner did want to see the building saved after seeing kind of the support that was coming. I mean, nationally, there were donations coming in from all over the place.
Right. Did you know that he really would have been supportive of keeping the building, or did you get the impression that he really just wanted to take it down and salvage everything in it?
Yes and no. I think from a business mindset, that's the business plan. Sure. They buy and they not demolish, they deconstruct. So they sell off the bricks, they sell off the wood. So business model wise, that's what they do. But we had talked in the past and we had actually spent some time together while we were working on this. And he had said multiple times that, you know, there's certain buildings that he kind of has a feeling that he would regret taking down because it is, if you've seen the photos, it is a unique building. It's not something that could be built today. So I think that's why he was a little lenient. And, you know, the 7 days passed and then he had another extension. And I think he's happy to see that the building is saved now.
So you got the funding. We didn't ever finish that part. You got the funding.
That's how my mind's work. It's still kind of a blur of how it's all happened. But yeah, so the GoFundMe didn't raise the entire amount. It is still ongoing. I guess it just continues to go on in perpetuity. But in the span of 6 days, he dropped the price significantly. And then one of the window companies that we had been kind of discussing this revolving fund thing essentially just said, hey, let's go ahead and see if it works. Let's do a sample or a test and see if this revolving fund idea works. And let's start with your business. And just in the span of 6 days, it went from consuming my entire life of trying to figure out how to do this to suddenly the keys were in my hand and the building's saved, it's standing. And now the realization of cleaning it up and actually moving in. So that's where we are now. We're at that phase.
And what are your plans for the building?
Lots of plans. I mean, initially the quickest and first use is going to be moving my window restoration company full-time in there. It's more space than I could ever need. Well, knock on wood, I could one day fill that amount of space needs-wise, but it's a large enough space where there can be dedicated equipment, dedicated stations for not just the restoration work that I currently do, but I farm out a lot of the sash building. And then I have a never-ending list of wooden storm build requests because I'm not set up for it now. I build them, but basically when I'm in that mode, everything else has to stop just because of the limited space that I'm in. So it'll be a fully functioning, basically sash restoration workshop / new build area. But there's so much room. I almost want to say room for activities, and it's a silly movie quote that'll just make me laugh. But there's so much room for activities. There's space for actual workshops to where I give these workshops across the country. We just did one here for Missouri Preservation, but I'd never do any in St. Joe. It's always out of town. So with this building, there's enough space that people will be able to come in and do not just window workshops, but it's a brick building, so we can do historic tuck pointing. We can do plaster workshops. We can do crazy ideas just floating around now that the space is secured, almost like the wine and paint parties, but instead of wine because of obvious lead hazard issues, but bring your own sash from the house or bring a project and have evening sessions where people can bring their own projects and have either community support or professional support from myself and other tradespeople that can come in and use some equipment that isn't necessarily always available.
Almost like a maker space, but for window restoration.
Right, for window restoration and for anything really preservation based.
Sure.
So just kind of that idea. And it's going to be kind of a floating space for a while because there's no hard set plans other than my workshop will occupy part of the building.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited for you. I was really thrilled that the GoFundMe sort of took off and that you were able to get funding in a new way when that didn't really fulfill the whole bill.
It was very humbling, I guess would be the right word, just to see how much support. And I mean, some people shared, some people donated. Even just letters of encouragement from people that were just responding saying, hey, we appreciate what you're doing and trying to save the building.
Yeah. Well, I agree with them. Thank you for saving the building. I'm looking forward to visiting you in your new space and seeing what you do with it. It'll be great.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again.
Whew, that was dramatic.
Wasn't it?
Was it stressful in person?
Well, not for me. It wasn't my building. But could you imagine, instead of a building, that was almost a parking lot?
Amazing. Thank you, John, for taking care of that situation.
When I last visited John Rogers, I actually did take a driving tour around St. Joe. John wasn't with me, but I know exactly where that building is. And I'm really happy that today it's still a building and not a parking lot.
Yes. Congratulations, John. Thank you for your service.
It is time to announce another winner of the 100th episode giveaway. May I do this one?
I think you should do this one.
Okay. The winner of the Sutherland Wells Woodworker Sample Kit is a bit serendipitous, and I shall explain why. The winner also sent me a message this season about none other than George Washington slept here. So I feel like we can't get away from this, and I don't want to. I'm very, very happy to have this keep coming up in our reminders. But the winner is Rosemarie Lowther. Rosemarie, congratulations.
Congratulations. Good luck with your woodworking, Rosemarie. So, Stacy, I think it's time for the second update. This one comes from across the pond. When we asked listeners who they wanted to hear from again, we had an overwhelming number who wanted to hear from Greg. He is best known as Man with a Hammer on Instagram. You can catch his first interview on episode 60 of True Tales from Old Houses. And we were so excited to catch up with this lovely chap.
Welcome back, Greg.
Hello, Greg. Nice to meet you.
Well, there's two of you now, which is very exciting, yeah.
Yes, I looked back, and the last time we spoke was September of 2021. So it's been almost 2 years. And I went back to see where you were at that point in this process, and you were saving for your kitchen, and you had just quit your job to become full-time working on the house and doing promotions for companies and basically Instagram as your profession.
That feels like a lifetime ago. I can't believe that was when we last talked.
It does. So I had asked our listeners who they wanted to hear from again for this 100th episode, and you got several requests. So it's so great to have you back.
Amazing. Well, that's really kind. Lovely. Well, it's good to be back. It was a great time chatting with you, and I've been following what you guys have been up to in the meantime as well. Obviously very busy. You seem just to have done an awful lot of window restoration, Stacey, which looks like,
So many windows. So bring us up to speed on the kitchen.
It's in. I used it for the first time entertaining with some friends last week, which was very exciting. I think I've been working on the kitchen, and it's sort of open to the living room as well through huge kind of 10-foot tall double doors. So I've been working on them as one room really. But yeah, I've been working on them for about 9 months, I think. So it's been a long 9 months getting to this point, but very exciting. It's going to completely transform what it's like to live in the house. I've been cooking on a camping stove for the last 4 years. Yeah, it's been fine, but it feels very luxurious to have the kitchen in and functioning. And I'm absolutely thrilled with it as well, which is amazing.
It's really beautiful. You did a great job.
Thank you. It's tricky. So obviously in a house like this floor, which is the ground floor as you walk into the house is over 5 floors in total. So there's a lower ground, which would have been the servants' working quarters and probably living quarters as well as the sort of very top floor, which is right in the eaves of the house. So this floor would never have had a kitchen because all the food prep and all the kind of the work that went with it would have been in the lower ground. So all the rooms on this ground floor are quite grand and quite architecturally ornate with lots of nice windows and fireplaces and all that sort of thing. So I didn't want to sort of rip all that out and then just cram as many cupboards in as I could, like you sort of see in a lot of kitchens. I wanted it to feel still like the room that it was before I touched it. I wanted to respect the architecture and the space. And then I wanted the kitchen to feel as best as I could like a sort of old Georgian cupboards and freestanding bits and pieces, which you can't completely do when you've got dishwashers to put in and plumbing and that sort of thing. But it's, I haven't ripped anything out of the original material. The fireplace is still there, which a lot of people would have ripped out to put the stove in. And so, yeah, it feels like it always has, with some lovely lumps of furniture that are my kitchen, basically, which is great.
Some lumps.
Yeah.
Everything's a lump.
Yeah.
That chaps and lovely bunch. These are Gregisms.
Yeah, which they're there, but they're coming quite frequent. People seem to kind of use them back to me now, which I'm not sure that's a good thing or not, but hey.
I did really want to open this interview with Morning Lovely Bunch, but...
So your kitchen is really great. And I'm hoping that maybe you would let us share a picture on the show notes because it's really quite something to see.
Yeah, of course. No, absolutely.
So how has it been the last 2 years working as basically Instagram as your job? Has that gone as you had hoped and planned?
I had no idea what to expect. It's not like a normal job where you turn up on a Monday and you work for 5 days and you go, it's very hit and miss, I guess, because you have no idea what's coming down the road. So it was a bit of a leap of faith. I was really lucky that I was able to kind of try my hand at it whilst still working full time for a long time. And it seemed to be going okay. And, eventually you take the leap of faith and give it a go. And yeah, it's just touch wood so far. It seems to be going well. My followers are incredibly kind and supportive in the work that I do with the brands. I think because my whole life I've worked in marketing, I guess understand that world quite well. So it's really, I think my favorite thing is that I've been able to use what I've done as a career for 20 odd years, combined with this newish found passion for restoration and interiors and kind of restoring this house, and combine the two, which is just, it's more satisfying than anything I've ever done for a living in my life. So yes, long may it continue, but you never know with something like this. It could all be whipped from under you at any point, I dare say. But yes, touch wood, is going really well.
Good. That's great.
Congratulations. You've been doing a great job of it. And I have some sense of how challenging it actually is. So well done, sir.
I think people think that you just take a picture and that's it. That's, job done. But the Instagram side of things takes 40 to 50 hours a week to run and manage, on top of trying to then restore the house on top of that, because I need that for the content. So it's busy, but it's work that I love doing. So I certainly can't complain. It's been absolutely fantastic. But it is, anyone that thinks it's easy, it's tough, albeit, with lots of fun, good stuff happening at the same time. So yes.
I've always been incredibly impressed by your pace. For those that maybe haven't heard your first interview or checked out your Instagram yet, just for context, Greg's house is about 8,000 square feet, built in 1802?
1804, yeah, nearly. I'm impressed. Yeah. So close.
1804, I said. And, it's just the scale of this thing is crazy. And it seems like you've moved through it very, very efficiently and tirelessly. And has the shift to sort of centralizing your work around the house also helped you increase your pace, even though that didn't even seem possible?
Well, so it doesn't feel that fast to me, but I guess when you're living in it all the time and working on it 7 days a week and pretty, I mean, you say tirelessly, but I am very tired. There's no doubt about that, but it's fairly relentless. And I've certainly compromised a lot of life outside of what I'm doing here in the short term, just to get it done. Something this size and this scale could take forever. And I don't really want it to take forever. I want to get back to some kind of life balance. I mean, it'll always need maintaining. There'll always be work to do here, but I'd like to not feel like it's this enormous kind of ladder still to climb. So people say it's quick, but it never feels that quick to me. I mean, 9 months to do 2 rooms. I mean, they're big rooms, but they're still just 2 rooms of 30. So at this pace, I think I've got probably another, including the garden, because I've got quite a big, very overgrown, wild, formal kind of walled Georgian garden. I think I've probably got another 7 years of work at this pace, which, and I don't remember the last time I had a proper holiday and all that sort of thing. So it's pretty much 7 days a week, just full time. But certainly the work around it has helped. It's helped me go from about 100 hours a week to 75. So that's quite nice. Trying to manage, because even before I was doing Instagram full time in terms of making a living from it, I was still probably putting 30 plus hours a week into trying to grow the account and sharing what I do to get to the point at which you have enough of a following to have, to be able to monetize it. So I was doing that and renovating the house and having a full-time job on the, as well as that. So it's definitely helped there. But also working with some of the brands I've been able to work with. I came into this without very much money. I bought the house. I couldn't really afford to buy the house. It was still phenomenally cheap for what it is. But to me, it was still a huge sum of money. I've spoken about what it costs and things like that, and most people can't believe it. It was less than my friends at the time were paying for a 1-bedroom flat in London, and I've got a 30-roomed mini mansion with a garden in Devon by the seaside. So it was very good value for money, but it was still way more than really I could afford. Obviously, it's mortgage to the hill, and so I didn't have a huge pot of cash to then renovate. I knew I was doing all the work myself regardless. So, and it would take as long as it took. There was no, it's my forever home. I'm not flipping it. I don't need to get it done by a certain time. I don't have kids, so there's no kind of pressure there either. But being able to work with some of the brands I've worked with on some of the kit within the house and using the house as a showpiece for their products has definitely massively helped in terms of, particularly in terms of timescale. I probably wouldn't be in a position to afford the kitchen were it not for the discount I was offered by the company that I work with, Heaven and Studs, little plug. They were brilliant and have, literally created my dream kitchen. Probably have had to have waited another 2 or 3 years for me to save up enough. So it's been hugely beneficial in that sense, but probably hasn't sped up how much work I can put into on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Mm-hmm. I'm honestly relieved to hear you say 7 years, because when you talked to Stacy in 2021, you estimated, do you remember what you estimated?
I think when I bought it, I thought, it'll probably take about 5 years, start to finish. And I guess if I talked to you in 21, I'd had it for 2 to 3 years at that point. So what did I say? Can you remember?
You said 3 to 4 more on the interior, and then the gardens another couple of years after that. So the timeline's gotten longer, which I appreciate.
It's definitely gotten longer. With any of these old houses, as you start doing the work, more work presents itself than ever you thought it was going to. When I bought it, I didn't realize I was going to have to strip all the paintwork back, and that on its own has probably added 2 to 3 years of purely paint stripping to the project, because there are 60 windows, there are 100 internal doors. The woodwork volume is insane, and it's had layers and layers and layers of paint slapped over it, because every 3 years the Navy would just go around and slap another coat of white paint on. So yeah, that on its own has extended my timescales by a chunk.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap today, what is your next project? You just finished the kitchen. I'm going to be one of those horrible people who's like, what's next? Never mind resting a little bit.
So I haven't fully decided. My folks who live up in Yorkshire, it's about 400 miles north, it's where I'm from, have sold up, they exchanged on their house last week, and they are moving down to Devon, near to me for their retirement, which is very lovely. And it means that they're going to come and live in the lower ground for a bit until they find their home. In theory, that's where I should be going and working next, because the lower ground is going to be a sort of holiday let for people to come and stay and rent out that kind of as a separate floor. But if they're there, I can't do that. So I'm probably going to go right to the top, which is a whole floor I've not touched, right at the eaves. There are 5 rooms plus a bathroom. So I think I'm going to start up there and probably start with the bathroom. So, because that's the muckiest one, really. So yeah, I'll get that done. So it's a really sweet little bathroom, a much smaller space than all my other rooms, because the ceiling height's a lot lower, but it's got an amazing view because you're 5 floors up. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one to do. And it'll be nice not to have something that's 12-foot ceilings and needs scaffolding everywhere and is, a 50-foot long when you look at both rooms. So it'd be nice to have quite a compact space. That will feel quick in comparison to this, certainly.
Can I ask, one of my favorite parts of your last interview was that you'd been in the house, I think, about 2.5 years, and Stacy asked how many bedrooms, and you're like, I think about 11. And and then the topic of fireplaces came up, and you said like 17 to 20. So I'm wondering, for 4+ years, then I think, or right around 4, have we had time to have an accurate head count of fireplaces?
Do you know what? I don't think I can tell you. It's definitely between 17. It's 17 probably sounds about right, and 12 bedrooms I think is probably about right as well. I won't necessarily use them all as bedrooms, but yeah, in theory it would be classed as a 12-bedroom house, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I should count up the fireplaces. Actually, I know how many chimneys there are. I think. That would be boring radio. I won't count on them.
We'll check up with you again in 2 years, and we'll try to see if we can get an updated count on bedrooms and fireplaces.
I'll still be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for updating us and telling us what you've been up to. It's always good to catch up with you, and I love following you on Instagram.
That's really kind. Well, it's an absolute pleasure. No, it's great talking to you guys again, and congratulations on your 100th episode. Amazing.
Thank you so much. And for anybody who wants to go back and listen to Greg's original interview, that was episode 60. And again, that was September 2021 was the year, though.
Nice to meet you, Greg. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
I enjoy talking to Greg so much. He is so much fun, isn't he?
He's so much fun. I mean, the accent alone, but he's also just the nicest guy.
He truly is. I've been following Greg for a long time on Instagram, so I keep pretty up to date with what he's been doing on the Admiral. But I remember the first interview, and one thing that I appreciated so much is the little history and geography lesson he gave us about his location and how the Admiral fits into that. I am horrendous at geography. Drop me in the woods, I can find my way to civilization, but drop me in civilization, I might just spin around on the same corner like a useless compass for days on end.
Literally, she just stands there and spins like a top. No, his house is just unbelievable. If you haven't seen it on Instagram, please go follow him, Man with a Hammer. It's an incredible property. And I really loved sort of getting a peek of just him personally, and that he has, many of the same challenges that we all have. Finances and money, I believe, are the same thing.
They are,
time.
Indeed.
The scale and scope of that project is so big. And so to watch somebody approach it with the attitude that he does, it's all very inspiring and cool. And we love you, Greg. Come back.
All right, we do need to take another short break. Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
We'll be back with more updates and giveaway winners. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, which is native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Unlike polyurethane, tung oil finish penetrates the surface of the wood, so it flexes and contracts as conditions change, which makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
I've used several of Sutherland Wells products, and they're all terrific. To my friend Dale, the woodworker, he's used many, and I'm really looking forward to a couple of new products that they're going to drop this summer.
Say the name of the new one. Say it.
Oh, I love saying it. It's called Slicky Wicky.
Slicky Wicky.
And Slicky Wicky is a combination wax tung oil product that you could use on the bottom of drawers, or you can use it in your window jambs to keep your sash moving freely up and down.
So to learn more about the complete product line and get yourself some Slicky Wicky when it comes out, visit Sutherland Wells, that's WELLES, SutherlandWells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use the coupon code TRUETALES. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Abitron, which is now a division of UC Coatings.
Abitron manufactures two of my favorite products on the planet, liquid wood and wood epox. I'll be demonstrating those at the window workshop this summer, and I'm extremely jealous of the person who wins that giveaway prize. I've talked at length about liquid wood and wood epox, and I've used them personally to repair wood rot on windows, doors, you name it.
Liquid wood and wood epox make permanent, cost-effective repairs wherever you find rotted or damaged wood. And whether you're a first-timer or a professional tradesperson, Abitron products are super easy to use. The instructions are really simple and the results are exceptional. There's no shrinking or sagging, and repairs can be sanded and painted just like wood.
And in addition to wood repair, Abitron also offers other great products for old homes, specifically for concrete repair, plaster repair, window glazing, and more.
Check out their website at abitron.com or follow them on Instagram at abitron_UC or on Facebook at Abitron, a division of UC Coatings.
Now, this is important because from now until the end of September, Abitron has a special summer coupon code for True Tales from Old Houses listeners. Enter FIXIT10 at Abitron.com for 10% off your order. That's FIXIT10 to save 10% on your order at Abitron.com. We we are back. It's time for another giveaway announcement. Go for it, Daniel.
Okay. For the Abitron Liquid Wood and Wood Epox Wood Restoration Kit, the winner is Sarah Gamble.
Congratulations, Sarah. Again, I said it before, and it's true. I'm a little bit jealous that you're going to have a brand new liquid wood and wood epox kit.
Yes, those products are excellent. You will have fun with them. Best of luck with whatever project you are working on.
And I'll reach out to you with an email to get your details. Thanks again, Sarah. It's time for update number 3. And Daniel, I have a question for you. You were very interested in following up with Ron Meller, who was my guest a long, long time ago during episode number 16. And I'm so curious. First of all, Ron is lovely, so I know why I would choose him. But what interested you about his initial interview?
Well, I guess I should mention I actually lived for a year in Saskatchewan, so I have a real soft spot for Western Canadians. And Ron is that in spades. He's a delight. He has the accent. Everything's working for me. And I think I loved so much that he and his wife took on a large 4,000 plus square feet.
I don't remember the exact square footage, but it's big.
Ron and his wife took on a huge restoration project at retirement age as first-time rehabbers, which I feel like you don't hear that story very often. And so I was really curious to hear how the project is going, how he's feeling about it. I don't know. The whole story was very compelling to me. The house is super beautiful, and I'm really glad we got to catch up with him. It was really fun.
I am too. I feel the need to mention, too, that in the first interview, if you haven't heard it, he refers to his wife as upper management. And that's going to come up in this follow-up interview, just to give you some context there. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. We had a ball. Ron, it is such a pleasure to see you again. Oh my gosh, it's been years. You were on one of the first few episodes of True Tales from Old Houses, and I'm so happy to catch up with you again.
Yeah, 4 years ago now, I actually went back and re-listened to ourselves.
Daniel and I decided for the 100th episode that we would circle back, and talk to some people that we had spoken to before. And Daniel, you picked Ron.
I did. I really loved your first interview and your whole story. And it's so nice to finally meet you.
Well, I'm not awesome, but
There's that Canadian humble.
I'm just another guy with a voice for miming.
Voice for miming. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So it's been 4 years. What you been up to, Ron?
Restoring my health still, of course.
Sure, that never ends, does it?
Yeah. Well, last time we chatted, I wasn't retired at that point, but looking forward to it. Now I'm semi-retired. I should have fully retired, but no. I've been working too long to shut down cold turkey. Work in the house, got some more projects done. I got a bathroom done. I got all my stairs restored last winter. I've got to start my windows this year. I'm a bit late getting to that. And yard work.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Why's that?
Well, you're 13 years in now-ish?
13, yeah, 14. Coming up 14, I guess.
Okay, good. I just passed 10 and I've restored exactly one window, which now has 2 broken panes. So,
well, I've restored a lot of windows, and I've still got a lot to go. I've got 2.5 sides of the house done.
That's really good, though. That's great.
By wintertime, it might still be 2.5. I don't know.
Yeah. So since we talked to you last too, we've had this whole COVID debacle that lasted a long time. Did you get more work done, do you think, during that time, or did it kind of slow things down for you?
To be honest, COVID never stopped. Never changed anything in my life. I went to work, I came home, and I restored the windows. Just I had to put the mask on and get my shots.
Sure. Yeah, for some people, I think they were home more, so they got more done. And I don't know, it kind of did re-energize me for projects, knowing that there was nothing else I could do. But I don't know that I got any more done. I just felt better about doing what I did.
sounds like we all had the same COVID experience. I was so jealous of my family. Like, "Oh, we're out of stuff to watch on Netflix." I'm like, I've been renovating a kitchen the whole time. Like, I don't know.
Old homes never stop needing repairs.
Right. That's true.
There you go. Speaking of, can I ask, because it wasn't really covered in the first interview, but so you are in rural southern Alberta, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, I worked out of Calgary.
Okay. So I got detained and sent back to the States in Calgary once, but that's a different story.
It's now legal to bring it in.
No. It wasn't that. I swear it wasn't that. Moving on. I'm so sorry. It's not about me. But I did want to ask, so do we know like the history? Because this is like a 4,000 square foot, pretty ornate mansion. How does that sprout up in 1880s Western Canada?
No, the house is not in Western Canada. The house is in Southern Ontario.
Oh,
I lived in
I'm
Alberta.
so sorry.
Well, that's all right.
I see.
Yeah, I was an oil field mechanic.
So what I remember is that you worked in Alberta and it was cold and winter lasted a long time. And so you moved to Southern Ontario as you're in retirement. Is that correct?
That's right. In preparation for retirement and now semi-retirement.
Okay, I've heard your interview like 3 times and I somehow missed the Ontario portion of the show. I'm so sorry.
I can be in Detroit in an hour. I'm right in the deep south, right by Windsor.
Gotcha.
Back to the house, how it sprout out in Ontario.
Yeah, still, same question.
Original family were loyalists. So for services rendered, they were granted an original 200-acre plot. So here they are. The family just grew. And as these old families did, they just kept growing. The winters were still cold.
So the family grew.
Yeah. Now, our house was built by the son of the original loyalist. By that time, the farm was 600 acres plus. They had some business wheelings and dealings in town. And he had the funds to build this kind of house.
Wow, cool.
And that's the short story.
Cool.
Since we talked last, what do you think has been one of the most enjoyable projects that you've done? Is there something that you've just really been proud of and enjoyed?
Oh, I enjoy it all, really. Really, Stacy, I enjoy it all. I like my stair project. That came out real nice. My upstairs bathroom restoration came out good. I'm happy with it. The original indoor plumbing was plumbed about 1910. So I restored that back to a 1910 feel with the white sanitary tiles and the little tiles in the floors. And I got a pull chain toilet now.
Ooh.
Clawfoot tub and antique looking fixtures.
Well, Daniel really appreciates an old toilet.
It's one of my passions.
Old toilets.
But I don't have a pull chain. I've just spent some time organizing my toilet collection. There's like 6 in my basement and 1 in the garage.
Do you got a real fancy one you want to share?
Actually, kind of, but I don't want to share it. I want to hoard it for a very special bathroom that I don't own.
Has to be the special bathroom, I know.
It's a really beautiful one. I think they're all beautiful.
I would have liked to have found a Flow Blue toilet, but no.
Oh, Flow Blue? You mean like the pottery toilet? Like the Flow Blue?
Yeah,
oh, That would be really something. I've seen a Flow Blue sink, but I've never seen a Flow Blue toilet. Oh, I've got to Google that.
Yep, you can Google that.
The thing about like publicly declaring your love of toilets is any old toilet, people will tag me on Instagram. So I see some crazy toilets.
I won't attack you on your toilet collection.
Thank you, Ron. I knew we'd get along. Does yours have a wooden tank? Sorry, I have so many questions about the toilet.
It's a ceramic. It's actually a modern reproduction toilet.
Oh, okay.
It's not nearly as fancy as the fancy ones, but it works. It does the job, and it's got a pull chain.
Beautiful. And how's upper management doing? I remember that.
Oh, she's doing fine. Upper management, yeah, she's doing fine. She's actually out west right now visiting the kids and the grandkids. How is your house coming along, Stacy?
Oh, goodness gracious. It's good. No, it's actually, I don't know. I'm kind of a long story, but it's going well. I'm continuing. We've been here for 9 years now. And my husband took a job in Utah 2 years ago. So next spring, I have to put it on the market and I'll be moving to Utah. But I'll probably find another old house, but smaller. This time it'll be smaller.
All your work will pay off on the resale price.
I think so. But yeah, we've made tremendous, tremendous strides inside and outside. I'm kind of frantically working on the windows as much as possible, hoping that people will love them as much as I do, so they won't want to take them out, the next person. But I think I have a pretty good chance of finding someone who's going to love this house just as much as I have. I think I've got a pretty good shot at that. So I've got all my fingers and toes crossed. Yeah. But thank you for asking.
There's old home people. We're out there somewhere.
For sure. Are you still involved with
Historic district.
The historic district? Well, yeah, I'm still moderating, but to be honest, it's slowed way down. Yeah, the site is really slow to, comatose almost.
You gotta come over to Instagram. Join us. Join our cult.
I'm not that technically savvy. I've got YouTube and I've got my forum page on the internet and the Facebook Messenger, and that's as technical as I ever want to get.
Fair enough.
I'm not that important that I need to be everywhere.
Well, we beg to differ.
The Historic District website, is that the best place if people are deeply curious and want to see photos of your house?
Yes, yeah. They're just I've got two long-term threads. One is in the construction site, which you may have seen, under Gothic Home. And the other one is the antiques that we filled Gothic Home with. So if you wanted to see our house, even the latest, you can even see my bathroom there.
Oh, perfect.
The one I just finished. And my stairs and all that.
I think it's so cool what the sort of leap that you guys took. I think you said in the first interview that this was your first real historic renovation project, and to start it on the cusp of retirement and be still at it 14 years later. It's a story you don't hear often. It's cool.
Ron, thank you so much for doing this. It's so great to see you again and catch up with you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Stacy. And Daniel, good to talk to you and meet you.
Thank you, Ron.
Oh my gosh, that interview was so fun. Ron is wonderful.
I adore him. And I think the part that people didn't hear was that when we record these interviews, there's a little moment at the end where the audio has to upload. And I think Ron's internet might have been a little bit slow, so it took a while. So he just gave us a walking tour of his entire house on his iPad, which was an absolute delight.
It really was. We got to see all of the cornice, which is different, I think, in pretty much every room. And they've really focused on antiques and filling the space with period-appropriate furnishings and wall coverings. They've left a lot of the original wallpaper intact. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful house. And I will dream of those plaster cornices, I think,
right?
Till the end of time. Gosh, so beautiful.
So beautiful, right? Something that I missed during that first episode is that Ron is actually pretty hilarious. During the first interview, I was really focused on production and making sure everything was recording, and I missed a lot of the subtleties of his personality. So it was really fun to go back as a friend versus that first time when everything just felt so big and heavy and overwhelming, just making a podcast. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that Western Canadian sensibility is always welcome here on this show. We just love him. Thank you for coming back, Ron. We love talking to you.
All right, we are making our way through this show, and it is time for the final giveaway. Would you like to do this one, Daniel?
Well, it's your turn.
Oh, it is my turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like you should really do the honors, Stacy.
Well, I am not going to say no to that because I'm excited to give this away. The last giveaway is a True Tales from Old Houses hoodie or t-shirt of your mostly choice. It kind of went from like, you can have whatever you want, down to these two colors, down to, we'll talk by email. But the winner of the True Tales from Old Houses hoodie or t-shirt is Angela Greer from Locust Lane Farm. Thank you, Angela, and congratulations.
Yay, Angela, you especially, if you don't send us a photo of yourself in our merch, will be deeply offended.
I don't know what Daniel's going to do, but he seems to be taking it very personally.
Yeah, so. There will be no consequences, but I will be disappointed.
Deeply disappointed. All right. Well, Angela, I'm going to send an email to you, so be on the lookout for that. And I'm really thrilled that you entered the giveaway. I'm really thrilled that we had so many entries to all 4 giveaways, and congratulations to everyone.
Yes, big congratulations to the winners. And if you were not chosen, we're sorry, but all of these products are available to purchase on your very own. So make sure to visit our sponsors' websites and use our coupon codes.
This final update, I have to say, it was my choice because for episode 100, I thought it was only fitting to go all the way back to episode 1, which was Don Grinda talking about ash dump archaeology. Do you remember that episode?
Yes, I will never forget. It was so cool.
I thought so too. Don was really the pilot project of this whole endeavor, and he and I recorded our episode over Skype, if you can believe it or not.
Oh, vintage.
Very vintage. But I recorded my segments in between his interview in my closet, surrounded by clothes, because I had been told that that was the best place to record a podcast for sound dampening.
I think that's kind of a rite of passage. I remember that the first time I was a guest on this podcast, I was also sitting in my closet. And the sound was still bad, but that was my fault.
Oh, I don't think so. I think the sound was bad because that was my fault. But anyway, I wanted to mention that too. And actually, I should be thanking the listeners again for putting up with that fiasco that was sound for the first probably 50 episodes. I'm happy to say we finally got it together. And catching up with Don was so much fun. Welcome back, Don. It has been a while. I have a very soft spot for you and your interview because you were the very first podcast that I released 100 episodes ago. And you were also one of the very first interviews that I didn't mess up so entirely that I couldn't use it. So thank you.
Well, congratulations on 100. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, of course, I had to come and circle back to you and see what you've been doing. And for everyone who's just catching up now, Don Grinda was the one who did ash dump archaeology and at your house there in Redlands, California. And so I guess my first question is, did you ever finish that project?
Well, I've tried to have a number of people help me, graduate students, to try and turn it into their thesis. And a couple of them have tried, and then things got in the way and they changed thesis topics. So I've got more excavated, but I am not complete in one of the chimneys. So still have the same issues, and I've been giving presentations on it around the country a number of times, and it's fun, but no, the project's not done.
Okay. Have you found anything else really interesting since we talked?
Mostly I've been working in the one that's under what used to be called the library, and it's mostly full of kitchen trash. So it's things like cans and fragments of foil and things like that. It's not nearly as interesting as the other fireplace was.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had to ask that first because I know we have some other things that you want to catch up on. And so anyway, I had to get that out of the way because I knew that was going to be the first thing that everybody was going to want to know. But what have you been up to in the last 4 years?
Well, lots of things in my life personally. My company grew like crazy. So I've been focused on managing that. During this time, my wife and I bought the company from the previous owners who founded the company. So we're now in control of it. And that's a different type of stress. But
sure,
we grew tremendously. We about tripled in size. And that comes with its own set of stresses. So over the last few years, I've done a lot of things personally beyond the company. I was looking to buy a second home. We've wanted one for years. Tough thing to buy. I was looking for a vineyard with a house on it in Central California. And that's a really hard buy unless you have all cash, because banks don't want to loan you money on farms, and farm banks don't like you to have a house. So they argue about who should loan you money. So it's been kicked down the road. So we decided that instead of doing that, we would fix our house. And so we're working on lots of upgrades on our 1912 Craftsman. And I'm just going through the process now. I've got no kitchen and my basement is under construction.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. So tell me a little bit about the upgrade or the updates you're doing in the kitchen and the basement.
The kitchen is a complete redo. Originally, the house had a butler's pantry and a kitchen. And in 1959, the owners at that time tore down the wall that separated the two and put in a header beam across so they could span that where the wall used to be. And they did it very poorly. So there's lots of deflection in the house. They essentially, it's a 2-story house with a basement. So they just transferred the loads in the wrong ways all over the place. So we have a lot of uplift in some portions and sinking in others. And so we've spent the last month or so trying to level the floors in the kitchen and upstairs. And the basement project, so the kitchen overall is tearing out a drop ceiling that was put in to hide that beam that they put in. All that's gone. Tearing out all the windows, floors, all the drywall, everything back to studs to get a sense of what we have going on. And then it's going to be a redo that's more in line with a Craftsman era. This will be the 5th kitchen in the house that has been redone.
Really?
If you count the original, there's been multiple redos. This will be number 5. But all of them were sort of what I would call just updates to the current time. So the one that I just ripped out was done in the early 1990s, and it looked like a track home from Southern California, really not appropriate. I don't want to take it back to the original. I have the plans from the house. In the original, they would have been sort of white plain cabinets, and there would have been the butler's pantry. And the changes, we entertain a lot in our house, and I want the kitchen to be more inviting and more formal looking, like the rest of the downstairs, which is all dark, vertical grain, Doug fir, lots of cornice work on the ceilings. And so I'm going to capture that in the kitchen and go more fancy period appropriate as opposed to plain period appropriate. So that's a major redo, cabinets and everything. So replumbing, rewiring in there, just pretty much everything you can do, I'm doing. And then at the same time, my basement is currently just under the kitchen. So it's about a 300 square foot basement. It's a long rectangle. And in the plans of the house, it was about 900 square feet, but they never built it. So I think when I've done my own research into the house, which I've done a lot, that side had a portion of it was written wine cellar in the basement. And Redlands, where I live, is at the time of 1912, they were a prohibition town. So they were prohibition before prohibition. So my guess is the architects who designed the house were from Los Angeles. And this guy in Redlands decides to hire them to build a house, and they draw up the plans and they put a wine cellar in there. And he says, wait, we can't do this. Or the fact that he was building the house he was building it as a rental property, and he just decided to save costs or something. But I don't know the actual reason why the wine cellar, 2/3 more of the cellar was not built. So I am going to excavate out the additional side, which is a major undertaking. They got to drive a tractor under the house, tear down a part of a wall. All of this is going to accomplish essentially what people call a man cave. So under the kitchen will be a full bar. And then on the other side, the unexcavated side, will be like a home theater and arcade, sort of maybe a pool table. I don't know. Pool table takes up a lot of room.
Sounds wonderful.
Oh, it'll be really, really handy because I don't like using the upstairs in my house or the main floor number 1, as a television space or anything. It's more formal. I like it, sit around the fireplace and talk and things like that. But I need a place to retire to with, a nice place to watch TV. So that's between those two things that is consuming us in the moment. It's very expensive and very long. Yes.
Yes, for sure. And you mentioned you're changing to more of a fancy kitchen than utilitarian. And that makes sense because, like you said, the house was built as a rental. So the people who are renting it way back when, weren't expecting to do anything in that kitchen. They had people who were doing the stuff for them, if I remember from our first interview.
Yeah. Everybody who was around in that time. This was considered a mansion at the time. It's a big house, but it's today's standards, it's not necessarily a mansion, but it's just under about 5,000 square feet. So at the time they had servants and cooks and maids and all those kinds of things. So it was a very plain kitchen. But yeah, that's not going to work for me anymore.
Sure. All right. Well, that sounds great. Everything sounds like you've been moving forward. Like you said, it's expensive, long-term project. I've been following you on Facebook, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out at the end. You mentioned when I asked you if you'd come back on that you had a story about your great grandmother. Is that right? Did I add enough greats?
The three greats.
Yes, great, great, great grandmother. And since you're such a good storyteller, I found this very interesting. Would you tell us about that?
Sure. So my mom and I have been back to my mom's side of the family's sort of farm locations in near Vincennes, Indiana. It's actually on the other side of the river in Illinois, but they're a couple hundred yards apart, in an area near Lawrenceville, Illinois. And one side of the family moved to this area in the 1830s. And so the story starts out in Virginia with a person named John Warner, and he gets to Virginia in 1785, and he gets married, has 6 kids. Those kids grow up, they start having kids. His wife passes away. He then marries what turns out to be my great-great-great-grandmother, and they have 4 kids. So now there's this family of 10 kids and some grandkids. And in 1835, the winter of 1835, this guy decides to sell everything he has and take his family west to Illinois. And he loads up the wagon train and gets everything into silver dollars and half dollars and hides all of that silver in kegs, in nail kegs, because I guess nails were a commodity you can't get anywhere. And rolls west, takes a few months to get to their destination. He gets there, he buys 3,000 acres of land, which I suppose is mostly wooded because there weren't a lot of farms in the 1830s in Illinois yet. And he sets up his family for farming. And 2 years later, he passes away. And his wife, his second wife, my great-great-great-grandmother, remarries in that year. And then they end up having 2 more children. And that's my line. There's one of their children. It gets down to me. Okay. But her first husband, when he died in 1838, was buried in the front yard of his house. And the cemeteries weren't fully established yet. So he was just buried on his little homestead. And then my great-great-great-grandmother marries the guy down the street, my great-great-great-grandfather. He then passes away. He's buried next to his first wife in a cemetery. She then moves back to the farm where her first husband was buried. And she lives until 1858, 20 years beyond. And then she passes away. And one of her sons buries her in the front yard. So now we've got these 2 people buried in the front yard. And one of them is my relative and the other one is not, because that was her first husband. I guess some sort of a half person, I don't know, on the kinship chart somewhere. I get lost with it. But you fast forward now until around late 1990s. And the headstones or the gravestones have fallen over and been moved to a little fence row just outside of the area. So people can probably mow their front yard. Stones in the front yard, you can't mow it very easily. So somebody had drug them over to the side. And then around that same time, somebody comes and asks the owner if they can move the headstones to a local cemetery. And the owner doesn't care because they're not his relatives. And they do. They move the headstones about a mile away and put them in concrete flat in the cemetery. Well, my mom knew where they were buried and said, the bodies are still there. And so 20 something years later, my mom is now almost 88 years old. And she says, we're going to have a family reunion out in Illinois this year over Memorial Day. It would be great if you came out beforehand and moved those remains to the cemetery. And so I said, well, I guess that is what I do as an archaeologist. I don't do a whole lot of work in Illinois, but I can figure it out. And I contacted the state and they said, yes, if it's more than 100 years old, the coroner does not have to be involved. So I started doing the research and I had to get permissions from my mom as the oldest living relative to my great-great-great-grandmother. It's her great-great-grandmother. John Warner, I had to find a relative of his. There was a Warner living in Lawrenceville, and it turns out that's one of his, I don't know what, great-great-grandchildren. The landowner permission, the cemetery permission, and the state had to give me permission. And lined all that up and went out there a few weeks ago and got a backhoe and excavated down. We brought out a person that works for me that does radar. She's a geophysicist. And I brought out an osteologist. That's a physical anthropologist who knows human remains. And myself and my son. So we all came out and we did the excavation. It took, we did the radar survey on Monday, excavated with the backhoe on Tuesday, got down to the 2 burials and excavated them out, did the analysis, put them back in the ground on Friday.
That is fascinating.
It was super fun. The community loved it. The landowner loved it. It was very successful, which is pretty rare in archaeology, where you write a plan, what you're going to do, that it actually follows the plan. Usually something goes awry, but everything went according to plan, and they didn't have very many artifacts with them. There was mostly coffin nails. The wood had mostly deteriorated. The woman, Melinda, she had a casket that had 4 casket handles attached. And where those casket handles were, there was still a little bit of wood preserved. So I had the wood ID'd, and it turned out that that's walnut. And she had 1 button with her, just 1 small button. And he had 3 buttons from a shirt and 1 button from his pants. And that's it. Nails.
Wow.
There was no artifacts. It was very, very early. So it was not during the beatification of death during the Victorian era. It would have been prior to that. So they weren't celebrating death very much. So it was fun.
Yeah, good for you. That's really nice. And I don't know, did it feel good to do something like that? I think it would get them safe and in a place where they won't be disturbed again.
Yeah, I think, my mom really wanted it done. And I thought, okay, this is going to be weird excavating a relative. But during the excavation, it felt like science. And then I got, we did a reburial in the cemetery. And, that kind of got a little emotional for me. But prior to that, it was more like I'm just doing my job. And then it was essentially a funeral after that. So that was a little bit different, but very interesting. It was fun. It was a fun project.
Well, Don, thank you so much for coming back on and updating us. And it's really great to see you again. I always thought I really had plans to come see you right before COVID. And then COVID just destroyed everything. It destroyed all my plans. So there were some things that were born out of COVID that were fine. But yeah, as far as travel goes and catching up and doing the podcast during that time, it was a very different time. But one of these days, I hope to get to California and hopefully we can meet and say hello. I'd really like that.
I would too. Anytime.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention to everybody in the beginning that I actually did that interview with Don by myself. You weren't able to be there, Daniel. I know that you have heard the Ash Dump Archaeology interview before. I was really hopeful. That was a bit of a cliffhanger when we ended that. And I was hopeful that we would have an update on the ash dumps. But as we learned, some of the history is still sitting in the fireplace.
Well, it'll be there waiting for episode 200.
Exactly. I don't think it's going anywhere. All right, Daniel, we did it. We did episode 100, and it's just been a ball.
How do you feel? Do you feel different?
No, but ask me in another 100 episodes because we're still going to be around.
All right. Can I still be around?
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses, and thank you to our guests today, John Rogers, Greg, best known as Man with a Hammer on Instagram, Ron Meller, and Dawn Grinda.
And a huge thank you to the guests from the rest of the season. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Christopher Wilson, Gina Bellis, Amy and Rachel from the Historic Murray First Foundation, Christiane Jobson, Erin Keegan, Caitlin Mee, Bob Yap, Wendy Pettit from the Demolished Salt Lake podcast, and Rebecca Hunter. What a season it has been.
Truly. And special thanks to the unsung heroes of this show, Nick and the crew at Mike Me. Please subscribe to the True Tales from Old Houses newsletter to keep up with our summer shenanigans.
And as always, to continue the conversation, join us over on Facebook and Instagram at True Tales from Old Houses. You can follow Stacy at Blake Hill House and myself at Daniel Cantor.
And to learn more about everything we discussed in today's episode or to request a transcript, visit truetalesfromoldhouses.com. Cheers to the next 100 episodes.
Woo-woo.
Until next time.
Have a great summer, everybody.